Hey y'all, what's up? It's Keisha, also known as Frack. And welcome to On the Cloud podcast. We made it to episode 16, and this week we're talking about relationships. And the name of this episode is Are You in My Business? So today we have Shavarr joining us. I'll let him introduce himself, tell you a little bit about him. So go ahead and share with everyone a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Shavarr Goodloe. I am owner and operator of Chef Life Creations here in Benton Harbor. It's my own home-based baking business. We specialize in cheesecakes, cheesecake cups, and custom creations to your liking. So, shouts out to my business, of course. And I'm a long-time listener of the podcast, and a long-time fan. And I'm ready to rock and roll and answer whatever questions need be. Let's go.
All right. So the first question is, so what are your turn ons, or like what turns you on about a woman, or just in general, what turns you on?
Definitely one of the first things that turns me on is a woman's mind. Intelligence is a big thing, and being able to hold a conversation is key. I feel like that's key to me over any outside appearance or anything. It's more so about if we can hold a conversation with each other, if the conversation is interesting. And also another thing that's a big turn on is how you carry yourself. How you walk down the street, how you speak, your vernacular, just your all around aura. That's more of a turn on than anything that is physical, if that makes sense for sure. You got to turn my mind on before you turn anything else on.
Okay, all right. Good way to put it. So on the flip side, what about what turns you off about a woman?
Oh, a really big turn off with me is attitude, but it's attitude that's misappropriated in the wrong way. If you just all the time bitter, angry, upset, just for no reason, like you wake up in the morning and you just the sun is up. Oh man, all right. Huh? It's a little bit too much. I mean, I like a little bit of attitude, a little bit of sassiness, a little bit of jazziness, but attitude all the time is definitely not cute. So that's definitely a big turn off.
Okay, all right. Any other turn ons or turn offs you could think of, or
Well, I can say I'll go one and one. So a
okay.
big turn off, a big turn on physically for me are a woman's eyes. Oh, it's just something about when a woman looks at me with a certain amount of eyes. When my wife looks at me with those eyes, it's just, oh my goodness, girl. Ooh, wee. It's just a certain look. It's not necessarily like an eye color or anything, but it's a look that a woman can give that I'm like, all right, let's go. But I would definitely say a turn off. Overconfidence. I mean, it's good to be confident, but thinking that you just all that and
Mhm.
everything, like you think you're God's gift, like just be humble a little bit. It's all good to have confidence, but overconfidence, that's just like I'm good, I'm cool.
Yeah, I feel it. I feel it. So what about the dating phase? So you mentioned you were married. Do you
Yes.
remember your first date with your wife? The very
Man.
first date?
The very first date with my wife.
She's gonna get you for this one.
Yeah, she gonna get me for this one. Cause we've been together for 13 years.
Oh yes, you will.
Yeah, she gonna definitely get me for this one. Our first date. Wow. Okay, I would actually say our first like date. It's actually a little bit interesting. Um, we actually had our first date at her place and just enjoyed time together. We had originally met a few days prior to that, and we agreed to just meet up at her place and have dinner and drink and had a good time. And I mean, hopefully we did something right because we still together 13 years later. So
All right. So good. All right. So that first date. What about so I know you mentioned you're married and everything. So what are your thoughts of like being married, or what was that transition like? Just kind of describe like the transition from being single to the dating until like actually being married. Is it like a difference, or how's that marriage life for you?
Well.
Well,
Like the whole transformation. Like before, I would say definitely before my wife, I was dating around a lot. I was a young man. I was in my 20s, so I was dating here, there, you know what I'm saying? Always trying to look for somebody and something. And then ironically, me and my wife met on the one night I got sick coming home from work. We had already kind of knew each other, but I actually went home sick. We had a long conversation that night. I want to say around about 9 to 10 hours or so. We started off on the internet, and then we actually started through the phone. And she was actually on her way back home from Georgia visiting her mom. And literally, she lived 5 to 7 minutes from me. So we got together, and the first part of our relationship, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit of a hard transition, but that was more so for me. Um, Wrapping my head around the fact of being one with somebody and being just a couple was a little bit for me, just coming from that. But to be honest, the more and more time we spent together and the more and more we were together, I fell in love with her more and more throughout the days, throughout the time. And more so, that feeling kind of just left me. It was a big transition, but at the same time, it was a transition that I was willing to make, especially when we were actually laying at her house one day and she just was like, you know what, you should just stay. I was like, okay. And I just stayed from that point on. And we have been together. And I mean, the road has been rocky, but it's not a it's a road that I wouldn't want to take with anybody else. The rocky parts get me to the wonderful parts, you know what I'm saying, that we experience and that we feel together now, especially when I can look back on 13 years of being together and going through the struggles and going through the stresses, like, and getting to the point where it's beautiful. We both understand each other more and we're more one now. So I hope that did answer the question. I didn't ramble too much,
I
but
know you're fine.
but
Yeah.
it was a beautiful thing, and it was a tough transition, but it's a beautiful transition to make, especially when you have your mindset that that's the person you want to be with.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's a good like point to make. Like once you know that, that's a good thing, and people like need to reach that point. Or so with everything and asking you about like the dating phase and everything you love about your wife and all of this good information. What's some good advice that you will give like future couples potentially wanting to get married one day? Or what's like any last thoughts or anything that you want to add?
One thing that I want to get a little closer into the camera on this one.
Okay.
Patience is a virtue. Um, Nothing that is worth it happens overnight. It takes time, it takes work, it takes a lot of conversations. I mean, even to this day, me and my wife are still, what I'm saying, having certain conversations, trying to understand each other better on different fronts, because you won't find out everything about a person going on one date or going on two dates. It takes some time to spend with that person.
Hmm.
I would definitely say, before you get married or anything, live together. Find out how that person is. And I know a lot of people say that that's wrong or whatever the case may be. Honestly, you won't know a person until you really live with them, be with them 24/7, know their habits, know like if they're a cleanly person or if they might be a little messy. Hey, all little things come into play. And I mean, the last bit of advice I can give any couple: don't let one fight or one huge fight ruin any relationship. Take the time out to talk, you know what I'm saying, when you're on a calm front, because trying to talk when you're both emotional just leads to disaster. But when you're both on the calm front, just try to talk it out and try to really see if that's the person that you want to put in the work with and the time with. And if you got your head wrapped around that, your relationship will be a success.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. So yeah, thank you so much. I'll open up the floor if you do you have like any questions for me or anything about anything.
I actually do actually two questions really quick.
Oh,
First of all,
all right.
I'm a curious person, so I got you on the flow. So I want to take the time to actually ask two things. For one, what ultimately made you pivot into doing a podcast?
I will say I never in my life ever thought about doing a podcast. It wasn't even my thought as well. It was my friend Kia Frick, my other friend that I do the podcast with. So
Mm,
we both graduated from Grand Valley. We went to school together, was on like dance teams, everything, best friends. When we graduated, we both had similar backgrounds for our major. So like hers is multimedia journalism. So she knows all this editing. She had a podcast before, like she tried this before. And then mine is advertising and public relations. So I'm more of the advertiser, designer, things in that manner. So we kind of came together and it worked. And we thought about this over quarantine. We were both bored. We were both in grad school, but it was just the time where we were like, what can we do? Or like what's something different that we could do? She had the idea and I was like, that'll be cool. So like I started it, but I could say it was never planned. It literally was a thought and it was like, let's go. And that was just something that happened and I appreciate it. We've been consistent and coming out with different episodes each week and it's actually been fun. It's like a kind of go-to with having to work and school and everything that's going on with COVID and having like this space to like share with the world, let people see what's going on, other people opinions. So this podcast has been great so far. So that's my answer for that for you.
that's what's hey, I definitely want to say that I salute you tenfold for taking that big step and doing something that it I mean for from every show I see it seems like you love what you do for
Hmm.
sure. So I salute you in that, and I salute anyone that is trying to do something to better themselves and trying to do something, you know what I'm saying, to grow their brand. So any way the chef life could be of any help to you, cheesecakes or just shout outs. If you need me to come on the show, whatever you need, perfect. But I do have one more question.
Okay.
What is your advice actually to someone who may be on the fence about starting their own business or starting their own podcast or doing just taking that step to get off the porch? Because I know a lot of it comes to just taking that step, and the fear of taking that step is huge. So what advice would you give to somebody who's hesitant on taking that next step?
Yes. So for that, I would say that's our purpose. So with On the Cloud podcast, we started a podcast, of course, for entertainment and having fun. But our purpose is for people to actually listen and people to actually like think like, okay, maybe I can do that. So like as before, we did our first episode on supporting upcoming businesses, where I reached out
Mhm.
to a lot of people to get them on there, subscribe, talk about their business, and we did. But I would say like my advice is because what's going on, people think you got to have the finances, which in
Mhm.
reality you do. I
Yeah.
know with just starting this podcast, we're starting it from the ground up. So we want to just show like progress and change and making that strong decision to start this great thing. It could lead
Mhm.
to something definitely better. So I'll say like, don't be afraid. I know with me, I was shy growing up, but now I have changed. Like COVID woke me up. Like y'all took my job from me. So now I got to find something else that I can really just, just get out there and do, maybe make my finances on in the future, but don't be afraid to start something. Don't be afraid to invest. Since we did this podcast, I mean, we're doing it in where we have computers, it's virtual. That's the way the world is now. So we can make it happen and make, we're about to go into a boring winter, maybe quarantine again. So
Mhm.
this is
Exactly.
something that people can like listen to us and take that advice. So with us starting a podcast, podcast, you utilize your voice. So utilizing our voice to speak to the people, to the college students, to the any this is for anyone. Like currently right now I'm speaking to the Ben Harbor High School freshmen, and Kia's going to potentially speak to students in Detroit too, but we just want to get a well-rounded audience to where we want to get back to our hometowns. We want to share thoughts that we experienced so far to help people that's growing up that maybe they don't experience that same thing. So it's a lot of advice I have for this. I could go on and on, but that's pretty much to kind of sum it all up is have that voice, make that jump, make that start, like start that thing, start that business, look at what you're good at, and look at, even if you feel like you're not good at something, go research, go try to
Exactly.
go use YouTube, or research something that you can take, because we have a lot of time, we don't know how long this pandemic will be
Hmm.
at the end of the day. So I know a lot of business is probably going to pop out once we get back to normal, so we have that time. So take that step. It may change your life, even though if it don't work, you learn from your mistakes as well, or you learn from things that you kind of go through. So that's some advice from Frack on the Cloud podcast.
Hey, that's the
Yeah.
that's the some of the greatest advice I've heard. To be honest, I mean, I with just for 2 seconds with my business, even I didn't expect to be making cheesecakes or cheesecake cups. Like that was the
Mhm.
furthest from my like. I wanted a restaurant type of business or a storefront,
You can.
and I mean, oh,
You
that's still my
will.
plan, my goal. But COVID like kind of opened up this lane for me where I was like, I seen a post on Facebook literally and was like, I can make that cheesecake better
Mm,
than what that picture is. And I made it for my homeboy, and then one turned into four, and four has turned into an explosion. And I've been riding this wave, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm blessed for it. But I didn't expect this nowhere near in my future. Cheesecakes was far from anywhere in. But once I see, I'm like, oh, people like this. Here I go.
yep. I
But
know
I
with the
think,
podcast, like it's not something that a lot of people know about,
mhm.
especially like in our hometown. So starting one out and trying to get some people to kind of buy in and see what we're talking about, and see like, oh, this is actually some good content, or this is something we can listen to and like get it going and start it. That's our goal, is to, really put Ben Harbor on the map, Detroit on the map, podcasts and things like that. But it's definitely our lifetime goal with this.
Get it. Keep it lit for the harbor. That's for sure.
Yep.
Keep it lit for the harbor, and keep our people that are working towards a bigger goal in the same network. That's my ultimate thing.
Mhm.
Working with different gentlemen that have been here. I talk to my homeboy in Vegas all the time that's from here, and I tell him all the time, like, just networking with different people. You don't know what could happen. Like I could network with this person over here, and it could turn into something huge for both of us, and both of us could explode, or we could get a network of people together. You just never know. So
You got
just
me thinking of more ideas too, like network. And don't be scared to network. That's
exactly.
really like my whole cloud of everything. Like how I networked with Kia, and we both were from two different areas. Now we came together with a podcast where we have supporters here and there. So like not just sectioning yourself off for just one location, or or just one thing specific. Just network, travel, get those business cards. I also plan to like help with branding and help people get their businesses up and low, like that advice. People need that, and that's what turns you from, okay, starting out, this something I want to do, to, oh, I'm a professional, this is a business, this is a brand. So
Exactly. And you gotta honestly, well, oh, here's another thing. Always walk like everybody's watching you. You never know who could be watching you or who could be ready to give you your next blessing. And the one thing that you could do could ruin all of that.
mhm.
So that's another little piece of advice. I'm sorry. I'm shutting up now.
You're fine. But yeah, I just want to thank you again for tuning in to the show, and thank you guys for watching, listening to us about relationships advice. This is a big topic that we wanted to share with the people. So thanks again, and thanks, Shavarr, and stay tuned.
Thank you. God bless. Have a good day now.